Okay, so what we have here is, what is the name of the message we listened to today?
The chosen of a bride.
Right, the choosing of a bride, right? So that was a very, very, very nice message. And in the message, down to the end of the message, Brother Branham gave a prophecy. A prophecy is when Brother Branham speaks and he's telling us something that's going to happen in the future. So the prophecy was on a place called Los Angeles, right? So Los Angeles is here, right? Let's see, Los Angeles. Los Angeles. Los Angeles. And Brother Branham was preaching in this is the Biltmore Hotel. Brother Branham was preaching in this hotel. And he was preaching, and that is in Los Angeles. And he was preaching. And he talked about this city, something gonna happen to this city, right? But before we talk about this city, we're gonna talk about these cities here first. Right? Because in the Old Testament, there was two cities called Sodom and Gomorrah. Right? Sodom, say Sodom. And Gomorrah. Gomorrah. That was in the days of, who is this person here?
God.
Who's this?
God.
That is Abraham, right? So in the days of Abraham, right, there was the two cities called Sodom and Gomorrah. And these two cities were so wicked that God rained down fire. You know, it's normally rain water. It rained fire and brimstone and burned up these cities here, right? And not only did he burn it down, there was an earthquake, right? Listen here. An earthquake.
Okay.
An earthquake happened right after. You know what is an earthquake?
Okay.
An earthquake. Yes, an earthquake. Everything started to shake up. It started to shake up like this, and the whole ground go down in the earth. So what happened was there was an earthquake, and Sodom and Gomorrah went down into the sea. It sank under the sea. So if you're trying to find Sodom and Gomorrah, you have to go underwater to find it. It's down in the bottom of the sea. And this is the Dead Sea. So Brother Branham said it went down into the, what sea? The Dead Sea. The Dead Sea. So many years later, so that has happened to this wicked city. Many years later, there was a city called Capernaum. Capernaum. Right? Capernaum. Capernaum.
Come on.
And in Capernaum, who is this? Who is this? Jesus. And he went to a place called Capernaum. And watch, Capernaum is right next to the sea. Again. And next city right next to the sea. And Capernaum was very wicked too. And when Jesus came to preach to them, they didn't want him to preach. They rejected him. And they did not like Jesus at all. So Jesus told them that God is going to judge them for that. Right? And many years later, about 100 years later, there was what's this? Earthquake. And guess what? Capernaum went where?
In the water.
In the sea. Down inside the sea. Capernaum sank under the water because it was a very wicked city. So now, we're living in this day now, and there's this city called Los Angeles, or California. This whole area is California, right? There is a place in California, or in Los Angeles, called, what is this? Hollywood, right? Now, we in the message, we don't really know much about Hollywood, but the whole world is influenced by Hollywood. So Hollywood has a very bad influence. Bad influence, right? So what Hollywood has, there's a lot of worldly, right? Worldly styles that come from Hollywood, right? Worldly styles and worldly movies, worldly fashions, and then the clothes people wear, like the clothes that men wear and that women wear, and they have worldly music, very bad, and all of that is in this place called Los Angeles, California, Hollywood. So God So even though Brother Branham came and he preached in Los Angeles, they did the same thing they did Sodom and Gomorrah, and the same thing Capernaum did. They reject Brother Branham, and they didn't. So he used to tell them about the women, you mustn't cut your hair, and he keep preaching on them. And every time he come back, they're doing the same thing all the time, and they don't want to listen to him at all. But the same thing that happened to here and here, the same thing going to happen to here. Because all of these things that they're doing here is what Capernaum did.
The same God that put Sodom in the sea for its sins, the same God that put Capernaum in the sea for its sins, the same God will put Los Angeles in the sea for its sins. That city of corruption.
This on the edge of the sea. This on the edge of the sea. And all of them will go down because of sin. Sins, right? So you have this also, Abraham. This is, who's this?
Jesus.
And who is this?
Brother.
Brother. Right? And what word is this? Sink. So Hollywood is going to sink, meaning that will go under the water. Right? So that is one of the major things that Brother Branham talk about on choosing of a bride. Was that prophecy in the end?
Yeah.